Good evening. After weeks of campaigning, we are on the eve of Election Day in Ontario.
And today, the major party leaders were making their final push to voters who may not have made up their minds. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live tonight with details from the last full day of campaigning. Siobhan, my, how time has flown.
It's been a lot jammed into this short period of time. We're now just 15 hours away from the start of voting, the official voting period. And we saw leaders today try to take advantage of every remaining second.
In the final hours on the campaign trail, party leaders' buses racked up a lot of kilometers, trying to pick up new seats and hang on to ones they held before the legislature was dissolved. Doug Ford renewing a call for a stronger mandate that will outlast the current U.S. administration. How strong? He wouldn't get specific.
Well, I just want to win. I don't look at the numbers. I just want to win. I want to win a majority, a large majority, until we send a message. We send a message down to Donald Trump that we're a force to be reckoned with.
A third progressive conservative majority is in sight for Ford. No plans to step away from provincial politics.
Man, I want to be premier forever.
How's everybody? It's a job Bonnie Crombie would like to take from Ford. In her final pitch to voters, reminding them of his list of unfulfilled promises.
He said he'd end hallway health care. He didn't get it done. He said he'd cut your taxes. He didn't get that done. He said he'd build 1.5 million homes, and he didn't get that done either.
Let's get out there and knock on some more doors.
NDP leader Marit Stiles tried to strike a hopeful tone.
We have the power of our vote to make real change.
While campaigning to maintain seats in Toronto, Hamilton, and Niagara.
Your vote has the power to strengthen our public health care system and hire more doctors and nurses. Your vote has the power to ensure that we address and fight the rising cost of everything.
The Green campaign focused on returning the party's deputy leader to Queen's Park.
Give people a doctor, start cramming kids into overcrowded classrooms, and protect the farmland and the places we love. Ashland Clancy's our choice!
After a month of shaking hands, hugs, and pitching to Ontarians,
One more day.
Voters have their say on Thursday.
Ford was asked today if he'd resign as premier if RCMP lay criminal charges in their Greenbelt investigation. Ford didn't really answer, but says he's confident that neither he nor any of his MPPs did anything wrong. Didn't say anything, though, about his staff. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. And Ontario's opposition leaders are seeking answers after a recording surfaced purporting to show PC staffer and candidate Sarah Bukhari asking for donations in exchange for political favors.
आपकी फाइल जब तक मूव नहीं होएगी जब तक मुझे मेरा डोनेशन नहीं मिलता मेरे से क्लेवर कोई ना प्ले करे आई एम वेरी वेल कनेक्टेड पहले से बता रही हूँ और मुझे बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं लगा जिस आप मुझे डील करें कि $100 दे दें 50 दे दें या 50 सेंट्स दे दें ये मैं फकीर नहीं हूँ ये मैं बहुत बड़ी बड़ी डील्स कराती हूँ तो मुझे बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं लगा आपने फिर मेरी इंसल्ट की है ये आपकी फाइल मूव नहीं होगी सिटी प्लानर पे जब तक आप मेरा डोनेशन मुझे नहीं देंगे ठीक है थैंक यू वेरी मच
Bukhari is running for the Progressive Conservatives in Hamilton Centre. The riding was previously held by former NDP MPP Sarah Jama, who most recently sat in as an independent and is now running as an independent. The opposition now calling for an investigation.
The recording appears to show that this candidate, Sarah Bukhari, asking for money for a political donation in exchange for action on a permit at City Hall. This candidate also happens to be a political staffer at Queen's Park. And in these last few busy days of the campaign, I know that Doug Ford wishes that you didn't hear about this video.
Meanwhile, the Ontario NDP tweeted, quote, very troubling. If this is PC candidate Sarah Bukhari, who is also a member of Doug Ford's staff, then we need answers for why his team is shaking down Ontarians for quid pro quos and donations. Now, a PC campaign spokesperson released a statement, which reads in part, Ms. Bukhari was not working for the government at the time of this phone call. She was voluntarily working with Dr. Arshad Mahmoud the other individual on the call and made the comments in jest to someone she believed was a friend. When Ms. Bakari rebuffed his inappropriate sexual advances and propositions for sex, the doctor released an edited version of the phone call to smear the candidate. Ms. Bakari will be notifying the police and the regulatory college.
Meanwhile, the daily Nanos research poll for CTV News shows the Ontario PCs maintaining their lead over the Liberals. Support for the PC party's up 0.3% to 45.7%. The Liberals jumped 2.6% to 31.9%, while the NDP was down 2.3% to 16.5%. The Greens round out the top four with 3.8% support. And when it comes to who voters want to be premier, just under 41% chose PC leader Doug Ford. Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie is second at 27%, up 2.9%, while the NDP's Marit Stiles sits at 13.8%. Green Party leader Mike Schreiner was down 1.4% to 5.8%. The poll of more than 1,200 Ontarians is considered accurate within 2.8 percentage points, 19 times out of 20. Also ahead of Election Day, a separate Nanos survey suggests nearly a third of Ontarians plan to vote strategically. That is to say, 28% are voting against a party or leader they would prefer not to become premier. At the same time, a majority of respondents said they're casting their ballot for a party or leader they'd like to win. For full details on where and when to vote, head to elections.on.ca.
A water main break in North York has left residents cleaning up. Just ahead, we'll show you the damage and how homeowners are trying to dry out. But certainly another day of warm temperatures continue to thaw out the snow. Mild and sunny at times today, but we do have unsettled weather pushing in, although that sunset looks pretty nice. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. What are you seeing, Lindsay?
Well, I love, first of all, Michelle, that we get to enjoy a sunset at this time of day now, but it's true, we do have a change on the way. Cloud cover is moving in ahead of this area of low pressure. It's a clipper system that's going to swing through overnight tonight and bring us some wet snow here in the city of Toronto and some rain to other areas of the province also. It's still 5 degrees right now, 6 in the Niagara area. So it's been a mild day, but tomorrow we've got some active weather in store for Election Day. We'll take you through it, give you an idea of how much snow could fall coming up. For now, Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, it was a soggy start to the day for residents in a North York neighborhood who woke up to a water main break that led to basements being flooded.
Tonight, some homeowners say they're frustrated with the city while trying to figure out just how bad the damage may be. CTV's Janice Golding is live tonight with more. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. As you can see behind us, work continues around the clock to assess and repair the water main break that caused major flooding on the street overnight.
Everything that I own, all my VHF, everything is flooded. We are in a world of hurt down here, man.
Glenn Bullen shot this video at 4:44 a.m. His basement underwater, the damage extensive.
All of our storage is flooded. As you can see, the water main.
As water continued to gush into his home, Bullen went outside to investigate.
Here's the manhole in front of our house. That's my house.
And discovered a massive water main break.
It was like a torrent river. It was pretty crazy.
2 doors down, Beninia Tamoyula woke up at 3:30 in the morning to the sounds of trickling water.
We were like in the Titanic movie, something like that. All my shoes were floating, my husband, the books, like everything, everywhere.
Her restoration company saying it's got a big job ahead. The emergency work expected to take a few weeks, and the long-term repairs could take months and cost up to $100,000.
They had 2 feet, it went above the furnace. All their appliances all been affected. The fridge itself was laying outside. They've got a substantial amount of damage, contents especially.
In the meantime, Tamala doesn't even know where she and her family will stay tonight.
The city shut off the water, the furnace, the gas. They said like maybe 8 more hours. We don't know yet.
Across the street, while the water has receded, Ron Brett's basement is covered in dirt and his home is getting colder by the minute.
Right now I'm hoping whether I'm going to get gas back on, whether I'm going to have heat again. I have no idea when that's going to happen.
The water main here was installed in 1952. And while it's not clear what caused the break, residents say water main work was being done in the area.
Back 100 grand probably. Everything that I own in the storage in all of our closets, everything down here.
While the city says it's assessing the situation and conducting emergency repairs, residents are saying Toronto needs to do more to prevent situations like this from happening.
Infrastructure has not been kept up in this city, and I blame that on the politicians.
You know, Olivia, if you're listening, let's get more done. If I see another water main break after this one, I mean, do you think my insurance company is going to help me?
Since 2016, the city has dealt with an average of 1,100 water main breaks a year.
And the city says the water main is expected to be restored later this evening, but it doesn't have a timeline yet as to when all of the repairs will be effected because the investigation is still underway. In the interim, the street will remain shut down until further notice. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Michelle.
Thank you, Janice. And still to come tonight, the flooding may have been real, but this disaster wasn't. We'll take you to a real-life training exercise meant to help students respond to emergency scenarios. We'll have the story just ahead.
Police have laid charges against a 15-year-old boy after responding to a weapons call at a high school. Northumberland OPP say they were called to Campbellford District High School just after noon yesterday. They're alleging a student made threats while in possession of a number of weapons. They were able to take him into custody without incident. A 15-year-old from Havelock now faces multiple firearm charges, as well as a charge of uttering threats to cause death or bodily harm. In Mississauga, an investigation is underway after a house fire last night. It broke out around 10:30 on Pear Tree Road near the Queensway and Cawthra. Officials confirm crews were able to put the flames out and remained on scene checking for hot spots. There's no word on a potential cause and no injuries were reported.
First Nations chiefs in Ontario have accepted a child welfare reform deal with the federal government. They voted on an Ontario-specific agreement that was negotiated with Ottawa. The chiefs say they cannot wait for the $47.8 billion national deal. It was voted down twice last year when chiefs across the country said it didn't go far enough on eliminating discrimination. This Ontario agreement now goes for approval by the federal government and the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal. Well, there is more confusion tonight over the timeline of those U.S. tariffs on all Canadian imports that could take effect next Tuesday.
It happened as U.S. President Donald Trump convened the first cabinet meeting of his second term. CTV's Judy Trin has the details.
Honestly, it's not fair for us to be supporting Canada. And if we don't support them, they don't subsist as a nation.
At the president's first cabinet meeting, with his commerce secretary sitting by him, Donald Trump indicated he won't be satisfied with Canada's progress on stopping illegal migrants and fentanyl at the border.
But the fentanyl-related things, they're working hard on the border. At the end of that 30 days, they have to prove to the president that they've satisfied him to that regard. If they have, then he'll give them a pause, or he won't. But that's up to him to see.
Canada has appointed a fentanyl czar, leased Black Hawk helicopters, and designated drug cartels as terror organizations. It has also reduced illegal crossings by 90%. But the president is focused on using tariffs to bolster domestic industry at the expense of Canada.
Tariffs will make it impossible for them to sell cars into the United States. The tariffs will make it impossible for them to sell lumber or anything else into the United States.
In a statement, the White House said the scheduled tariffs on Canada and Mexico could change pending negotiations, but as of now are still moving ahead. The federal government has until March 4th to meet the markers the Trump administration has set, or tariffs could be imposed on all Canadian goods. On March 12th, additional tariffs on steel and aluminum are scheduled. Then, worldwide reciprocal tariffs in April. Businesses and workers are being told to prepare for a long trade war. The Canadian Labour Congress says 25% tariffs will cut deep.
Our estimates are that 1.5 million jobs will leave within the first 12 months if there are the broad stroke tariffs that we're expecting to start taking place next week. We know that 2.4 million jobs in Canada are reliant on export to the U.S. specifically.
The federal government says it's preparing a robust financial plan to help workers get through a long trade war. But so far, few details have been released. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
The city of Brampton is outlining an effort to protect local businesses and industries from potential U.S. tariffs. Brampton City Council passed a motion supporting Buy Canada efforts last month. Now it's okayed the creation of a mayor's tariff task force. It will look into engaging with U.S. municipalities and businesses that want to strengthen ties. But it will also explore options to diversify Brampton's trade relationships here in Canada and other non-U.S. countries.
Canada, I think just because of the close friendship over the years, has allowed ourselves to be dependent on trade with the U.S., but we have numerous preferential trade agreements around the world. Now is the time to be resilient, to creative, innovative in responding to this threat by targeting those new markets.
Mayor Brown urged higher levels of government to help cover shipping costs for suppliers looking for buyers more further afield. He also signaled Brampton's support for counter tariffs if the U.S. imposes those 25% import taxes next week. We turn now to the federal Liberal leadership race. The four candidates faced off for the second and final time last night.
The reviews are in, and now it's up to about 400,000 party members to choose a new leader as voting gets underway. CTV's Rachel Aiello reports.
The condensed campaign is nearing the finish line. Advanced online voting opened up this morning with a strict verification process. And the Liberal leadership hopefuls are now hoping to ride any momentum they picked up in last night's showdown straight to the ballot box.
I'm the candidate here that is the most distant from Mr. Trudeau.
The four candidates campaigning to become Justin Trudeau's replacement tried to distance themselves from the Prime Minister's record.
Trump is unleashed and empowered. As your Prime Minister, I will be too.
While positioning themselves as the best leader to stand up to both U.S. President Donald Trump and their main Canadian opponent.
Who's the worst person to stand up to Donald Trump? It's Pierre Poilievre. He worships the man.
All contenders also sought to draw contrast with their rivals, but the only one to land a few pointed jabs was Karina Gold.
I came to have a debate because I think that's not just what Liberals are looking for, but that's what Canadians are looking for.
The reluctance to go too hard at their other contenders could be because the Liberals don't want to hand Poilievre any fodder for future attack ads. Nanos' latest ballot tracking shows the Liberals have closed what just 1 month ago was a 20-point polling gap.
For all intents and purposes, it's a horse race right now and a coin toss.
Today, the Conservatives pounced on a comment Carney made in a post-debate scrum about the timeline of and his involvement in a decision to move the headquarters of an asset firm that he chaired from Canada to New York, around the time Trump started threatening tariffs.
We know that we can't trust what Mark Carney says.
The voting period for the Liberal leadership race closes on the afternoon of March 9th. That night, the winner, chosen by a preferential ballot system, will be announced at a special event in the nation's capital. And then the countdown is on until the next general election. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed today that his Ukrainian counterpart will visit the White House Friday. Volodymyr Zelensky will be seeking clarity on what Ukraine can expect from the U.S. amid efforts to end the war.
Without future security guarantees, we will not have really just peace, and we will not have really ceasefire, what Trump spoken about. And if we don't have it, nothing will work.
The Ukrainians say they are prepared to approve a framework minerals deal with the United States, but are seeking security guarantees as part of the deal. Today, Trump said he won't make any far-reaching guarantees, insisting that should be done by Europe. The agreement would see Kyiv hand some revenue from its mineral resources to a fund jointly controlled by the Americans. Trump says it would be repayment for U.S. aid during the war. Zelensky says the key part of Friday's meeting will be ensuring U.S. military support continues.
In the Middle East, the bodies of 4 hostages are expected to be handed over in Israel tonight. Israel says there has been cruel treatment of other hostages as they were freed, so it has been delaying the release of about 600 Palestinian prisoners since Saturday. Today, Hamas said the handover of the 4 hostages' bodies will happen in exchange for hundreds of Palestinians held in Israeli prisons. The group has called the delay a serious violation of the ceasefire and says talks on a second phase aren't possible until the prisoners are freed.
The Vatican says the Pope has shown slight improvement as he battles double pneumonia. The pontiff is continuing to receive oxygen, but has not experienced any further respiratory crises. A CT scan of his chest yesterday showed what was called a normal evolution of the inflammation in his lungs. There was no indication today whether the Pope is still considered to be in critical condition, but his prognosis was still guarded. An official says he was alert through the day and was able to eat normally and move around his hospital room.
It might be worth taking a peek skyward over the next few days. 7 planets are aligning through the end of the month in what's known as a planetary parade. Venus, Mars, and Jupiter are visible to the naked eye, but Mercury and Saturn will be faint and close to the horizon, making them harder to see. The other planets can only be seen with binoculars and telescopes. The best chance to catch a glimpse is on a clear night after sunset. A college campus looked like the scene of a disaster today, all in an effort to help train the people who would be called in to help if a disaster struck.
At Centennial College today, students were tested on managing emergency responses. CTV's Mike Walker was there.
Hundreds of students training to be first responders jumping into action.
There's about 17 casualties approximately right now.
Applying lessons learned to a mock disaster at Centennial College.
The basic general scenario is that Centennial City has been suffering from a heat wave. So the hospital's overloaded, all kinds of heat-related injuries, and now we have a tornado approaching.
This simulation creating absolute chaos, resulting in buildings collapsing,
How did you get in this position?
to injuries at an electronic dance music festival and a professional soccer match. Actors play the injured who are rescued, assessed, and treated by students training to be firefighters, police, paramedics, and nurses.
What we're in essence doing is mimicking and recreating what's already happened, and we're preparing our students to, once they graduate here, for real-life experiences.
Make sure that the structure is safe.
More than 500 people taking part in this exercise.
I didn't think it was going to feel as realistic as it does.
Nataki Tajwar is a second-year Police and Public Safety Foundation student.
I think it just mostly teaches us collaboration and teamwork.
Okay, you see no signs.
Throughout the exercise, first responders and practitioners with years of experience assessing and coaching these students as they deal with mass casualties and multiple crisis calls.
We have an amazing ability to self-adapt in crisis, and we want people to experience that.
And they come out of here knowing that even in the real world, when they're hired, say, by a local fire service, they'll be at an incident where the communications is very difficult. They're going to call back and go, you know what, I've experienced this.
Centennial College has performed these mock disaster exercises for 20 years.
As more and more patients started going into my pod, it became a little bit overwhelming.
For practical nursing student Tevin Frost, it's a hands-on learning experience like no other.
If I ever encounter a sort of situation like this in my real practice, I can say, oh wait, I've done something like this before.
Mike Walker, CTV News.
Still ahead tonight, she was best known for playing Harriet the Spy in her roles on Gossip Girl and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Remembering Michelle Trachtenberg, who died today at the young age of 39.
I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, there's growing concern over the number of Canadians who are missing their mortgage payments. Many are having to refinance at higher interest rates, causing their payments to go up hundreds of dollars a month. I'll have my report. That's just ahead.
Well, we are well on our way to this being our snowiest February on record at Pearson Airport. The number to beat is 76.8 centimeters, set back in the year 2008. We're almost there. We've only got about 3 centimeters to go, and we could pick that up overnight tonight and into tomorrow. And this is just round one. Another snowy system moves in for Friday. We'll talk all about that coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
More than 1 million mortgages will renew in 2025, and already there are signs thousands of homeowners are facing financial pressure.
Equifax says more than 11,000 people in Ontario missed making their mortgage payment in the fourth quarter of last year. Pat Foran has the story on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. It's being called a troubling trend. Many consumers who locked into low interest rate mortgages 5 years ago are now having to pay much higher rates when they renew. The number of people who missed a mortgage payment tripled over the year before.
5 years ago, we were still dealing with the COVID pandemic. Housing prices were near record highs and interest rates close to record lows. For homeowners who have had to renew their mortgages after their 5-year term was up, some are seeing major increases in their monthly payments.
We've seen those missed payment rates been going up and up and up for at least 18 months now.
Equifax Canada says delinquency rates are on the rise, especially in Ontario, where 11,000 households missed at least one payment in the fourth quarter of last year. That's a 90% increase over the same period the year before. The survey found households are also taking on more credit card debt as well as high-interest car loans.
This report that mortgage delinquencies are going up is a very worrisome trend.
Many homeowners who had mortgages for 2% are now renewing at 5%, meaning their payments have increased hundreds of dollars a month or much more depending on their situation.
I'm talking to lots of people who are telling me, yeah, my mortgage payment went up $2,000 a month. That's not unusual at all. Most people didn't see their pay go up $2,000 a month, so it puts a huge strain on the budget.
It tells us that people are encountering a little bit more financial stress.
With more families finding their budgets stretched, they're having to refinance to pay off consumer debts so they can keep paying their mortgage.
I do think that a lot of Canadians have bitten off a little bit more than they can chew, and they're having some trouble paying that stuff back.
If interest rates go down, that could offer some relief, but current issues with the U.S. may mean more economic pressures.
There's been a lot of conversation about tariffs. You know, if some of those do come into play, we could see things like unemployment levels rising, and that could lead to a much wider spread financial shock for consumers.
And Canadians in general are taking on more debt, and last year had 8% more credit card debt than the year before. What happens during the next few months will likely set the financial tone for the year ahead. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Not as sunny as yesterday. We had a few clouds, but still it was mild and it felt pretty good out there.
Feeling pretty good. Makes you think, oh, we could stay here, but that's not the case. In fact, we have some unsettled weather, and then a little bit later on, it'll cool down again.
And dare I say a little bit of weather whiplash after that, because we've got snow, we're going to cool down, and then we're going to be mild at times again next week. So a lot going on. We're going to begin with what you need to know for tonight. First, though, we'll talk about earlier today. It's true. We had a pretty lovely day. This morning was filled with sunshine. And our temperature in Toronto actually jumped several degrees in a short period of time after that sun was up. Here's the thing, though. Change is on the way. This time yesterday, we were tracking this disturbance moving in, and it was looking like it was going to impact us through these evening hours. I'm happy to say that your traveler's forecast for this evening doesn't look too bad, but do know that a system is on the way, and with it, we will likely get a period of wet snow. Some areas are also going to get a little bit of rain. That's already happening in extreme southwestern Ontario. And once again, right along the Erie shoreline, heads up in the Hamilton over toward Niagara area. You too could get some rain mixing in with this one too. So there's overnight. Waking up tomorrow morning, we're likely dealing with some wet snow, maybe a slushy 2 centimeters of it. And then on and off through tomorrow, still more in the way of flurries or some rain showers. We'll get a little bit of a break into Friday morning. But then here comes the next one, and this clipper is going to pack a little more of a punch. It looks like this one could bring some areas 5 centimeters of snow or more. It will impact us Friday afternoon and certainly into the evening, overnight and into early Saturday, and that is then going to set the tone for some colder air moving in behind that low and some very wicked winds throughout the day too. Let's talk first about this first round, maybe 2 to 5 centimeters of snow around the GTA. Again, there might be some rain mixing in, which could lessen some of these totals. And then the next round, again, brings another 5 centimeters of snow or more to many areas. You'll notice that these numbers are a bit higher the further north you travel away from downtown Toronto. Those are the areas that are likely to see maybe 10 to 15, even 20 centimeters of snow by the weekend. Temperature right now, we've lost a degree. It is 4 right now, but we were above seasonal once again today. Average daytime high is 2 degrees. And tonight, we're dropping to about 1, maybe 0. We'll likely stay at or slightly above the freezing mark. Could make for some slippery spots early tomorrow morning in addition to that wet snow. Our daytime high tomorrow is going to be about 4 degrees. Again, that's not so bad, but it comes with that active weather. And then look what happens into the night. -6 is our overnight low Thursday and into Friday. Friday is a cooler day. Look at the weekend, though. Afternoon high of -2 degrees on Saturday. Overnight low -15. It's going to be a bitterly cold start to the day on Sunday, but we do return to some sun. And then there's next week. Looks like highs around 4 and 5 degrees by next Tuesday and Wednesday. That's the forecast for now. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. After the break, a measles outbreak south of the border has now claimed the life of a child. We'll have more on just how widespread the situation is and why officials worry it could get worse.
Well, inflammatory breast cancer is rare, but an aggressive form of the disease.
Now, one patient has started a new research and support organization specifically for Canadians. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has the details.
I was still nursing my second daughter when I started to develop these symptoms. And it was like skin thickening at first, and my breast was swelling. But when you're nursing, you have milk in your breast.
But with no detectable lump, none of the healthcare professionals Danielle Cameron saw through her third pregnancy thought it was cancer.
They said, it's interesting because I've never seen this before, but it's definitely not cancer.
Those that are detectable tend to be a mass that's not painful. And so when there is like a painful dimpling of the skin, in particular in a younger woman, the first inclination is to think that this is not a malignancy.
When little Penelope was born, she refused to nurse on the right side.
He said there's literally less than 3% chance that this could be cancer. And he could tell that I was worried. And he said, you know, just to reassure you, I'm going to send you to a breast specialist.
It was inflammatory breast cancer, a rare but aggressive form of the disease.
IBC often presents with painfulness, tenderness, swelling, and changes in the skin of the breast, which is the typical thing that we use to diagnose it.
Danielle immediately began treatment, and while she is now stage 4, she is stable. And 5 years after her diagnosis, she's begun a new website, ibcnetworkcanada.org, modeled after a U.S. group that helped her in the past.
The main purpose of the website is to fund research, but it's also there to provide education and support for patients and their families.
Danielle says while IBC survival rates tend to be lower than other forms of breast cancer, she is living proof that treatments can be successful. But treatments can only begin when people are informed and get diagnosed. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
You may have spotted a few more pink outfits today as it is Pink Shirt Day. Pink Shirt Day was first organized back in 2007 by students in Nova Scotia to show support for a boy who was bullied for wearing pink. The event is now meant to raise awareness about the harms of bullying, raise funds for anti-bullying programs, and foster conversations about kindness and inclusion. Today, some experts are also focusing on the reality of bullying in other settings, including workplaces.
We often believe, especially leaders, that because I got good intention, that automatically means I'm making a great impact, but that's not always the key. And the second aspect is feedback. How do we provide effective feedback in addressing the sensitive topic?
The Pink Shirt Day organization has raised more than $3 million for youth anti-bullying initiatives since 2008.
A child in Texas has died from the measles. It's the first reported death from the highly contagious virus in the United States in a decade.
In Canada, there have been nearly 100 cases so far this year, compared to just 6 this time last year. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
Officials in Texas say this is the largest measles outbreak in 30 years and has claimed the life of a child who was admitted to hospital last week. The outbreak has grown to at least 124 cases, mostly within a Mennonite community. Nearly all are children, and in almost every case, the patient is unvaccinated.
When you layer a very infectious virus in close quarters with many kids that are unvaccinated, that is a recipe for a disaster.
Measles cases are rising around the world, driven in part by declining vaccination rates. In Canada, there have been 95 cases of measles in the first 2 months of this year, compared to 147 cases for all of 2024, with Quebec, Ontario, and Manitoba all reporting new cases last week.
This is problematic. We're headed in the wrong direction.
Measles can cause high fever, cough, and eventually the telltale rash. It can lead to swelling of the brain, pneumonia, and death. The virus is highly contagious, but also preventable.
When we see rates of vaccine higher than 90%, preferably around the 95% range, we just don't see subsequent transmission of measles in our communities. But as you have pockets of in the community where rates are lower, you start to see outbreaks, and that's exactly what we're seeing now.
Around the world, measles cases are on the rise, up 20% in 2023 compared to the year before. Here in Canada, experts say more needs to be done to encourage families to vaccinate their children and also combat the spread of vaccine misinformation. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Former co-stars are paying tribute to actress Michelle Trachtenberg tonight after she was found dead in her New York home.
We're turning around. One last battle and the war is won.
She was best known for her roles as Georgina Sparks on Gossip Girl and the main character's sister Dawn on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She made her acting debut as a child star on Nickelodeon projects. Sources tell ABC News that Trachtenberg recently had a liver transplant. The report said the 39-year-old is believed to have died of natural causes.
The 97th Academy Awards will be handed out this weekend, but preliminary events for Hollywood's biggest night are already getting underway. Last night, the Academy held a cocktail reception and private dinner for nominees. 172 of those in attendance posed for a star-studded class photo. Comedian Conan O'Brien is hosting the Oscars this year, and the ceremony airs Sunday night here on CTV.
At a time when many people are considering buying Canadian, a young filmmaker is asking you to also consider watching Canadian.
CTV's Andrea Kay sat down with the creator and star of a new film called Older Every Day.
Al! What? Wake up, I've got something to tell you.
In the film Older Every Day, nothing brings people closer like a little tragedy. It was written, produced, and stars Quebec native Eric Fleissing.
Older Every Day tells the story of Val, who gets kicked out of university and moves back to his small town to live with his widowed father. And he sets himself two goals. He wants to write the next great novel, and he wants to get back with his high school girlfriend that he regrets breaking up with. But then things take a turn for Val when one of his best friends dies, leaving his friend's younger brother, Charlie, orphaned. So Val and his dad take in Charlie, and Val is faced with this responsibility and discovers that he needs to grow up fast so that Charlie doesn't have to.
The idea for the film popped into his head while he was acting in a play in New York, where he went to school. It required his character to play dead for an extended period of time.
He's dead on stage for like 15 minutes at the end of the play. So I'm laying there, trying not to breathe. I'm like, oh, I don't like this that much. I think I should do more film.
It took some years to work on the script and then finding a producer and a team to believe in the project.
People that care, because when there's not that much money to spend, you need people that are like invested in the story itself. So I was really lucky to be able to find that. There's so much talent in Canada. Great talent in this movie.
Shot throughout the Greater Toronto Area, it first premiered at the Forest City Film Festival in London.
I just hope people, when they think to buy Canadian, they think more than just the ketchup or beer. They think about our art and culture, because that's what differentiates us as a nation. We need to invest in Canadian culture.
Older Every Day is available now on streaming services including Apple and Bell Video on Demand. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Paul McCartney is releasing a book telling the story of the group he led after the Beatles. Wings, the story of a band on the run, is based on interviews with McCartney and others in the 70s and early 80s. It's expected to chronicle his time in the band, along with co-founders Linda McCartney and Denny Lane. The book will come out November 4th. And rock legend Ozzy Osbourne is set to share an inside look at his health challenges in an upcoming documentary. Paramount Plus says it's working on a feature-length project revealing the devastating setbacks the 76-year-old singer has faced since a fall in 2019. It'll be titled No Escape from Now, and it will also focus on Osbourne's plans for what he's calling his final performance with Black Sabbath in Birmingham, England. This will happen July 5th. At this stage, there's no release date set for the documentary.
To sports, the Toronto Raptors are in action for a second straight night.
Dingas together for 16 games as Scotty gets the bucket underneath.
Toronto was coming off a 111-101 loss to the Celtics last night, and this evening they visit the Indiana Pacers, who are fourth in the Eastern Conference. The game tips off a 4-game road trip for the Raptors.
Who's a tremendous asset in this spring training.
Straw hits one well to deep right center field. It is caught on the track, but easily coming in to score is Clement.
And the Blue Jays are looking to make it 4 in a row this afternoon, but Toronto suffered its first loss of spring training against Philadelphia. The Phillies scored 5 runs in the 6th inning en route to a 9-6 win.
Still ahead, a highly anticipated earnings report from Wall Street favorite NVIDIA. We'll have the latest from the BNN Bloomberg newsroom. Stay with us.
Everything that I own, all my VHS, everything is flooded. We are in a world of hurt down here, man.
Updating our top stories, homeowners in North York are drying out tonight and trying to determine just how much damage was caused after a water main broke overnight. The city says the water main had been in use since 1952. Residents say water main work was being done in the area at the time of the break.
We've seen those missed payment rates been going up and up and up for at least 18 months now.
Warnings tonight about rising mortgage delinquency rates here in Ontario. Equifax Canada says 11,000 households in the province missed at least one payment in the fourth quarter of last year. Some who locked into low interest rates 5 years ago are now struggling to pay much higher rates at renewal.
I need help. She's hurt legs.
And hundreds of college students took part in a mock disaster exercise today aimed at giving real-world training to future first responders. The exercise at Centennial College simulated everything from a heat wave to a tornado.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
Well, it's probably the most anticipated earnings report of the season. NVIDIA, the tech company, shared its numbers after the markets closed today. BNN Bloomberg's Marella Fernandez has the details.
NVIDIA reported its earnings beat expectations. There was a 4% bounce in initial after-hours trading, but it was up and down after that. NVIDIA's fourth quarter revenue came in at $39.3 billion, about $1 billion more than expected. The company says there was strong demand for its newer products. Blackwell is their new graphics processing unit. NVIDIA says demand for it is amazing. And the tech company has an optimistic outlook for the next quarter. Now, there were concerns about demand dropping when a Chinese company recently debuted a cheaper AI product. NVIDIA makes the computer chips that bring AI to life. The Canadian dollar ends the day down, sliding under that 70-cent U.S. mark, coming in at 69.74. Oil on the West Texas Intermediate down as well to 68.62. According to our latest fix on Western Canadian Select, it dropped to 55.50 a barrel. And the TSX is up by 124 points today. Those are your business headlines from the BNN Bloomberg newsroom. I'm Marella Fernandez.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
It's been a challenging day for workplaces that rely on Slack. Users of the messaging platform have been reporting issues connecting since at least this morning. The company has said it's aware of the problems and it's trying to get them fixed. As of this evening, Slack's status page indicates the outage has not been resolved.
Also today, Google announced an update of its Results About You tool. It was created by the search engine so users could flag when their personal information appears online without their permission. Users can now ask the tool to proactively scan for that content and submit requests for its removal if it meets certain criteria. If outdated information that's been removed from a website still remains in Google search results, users can use the tool to request a refresh.
After the break, a super pod of dolphins makes an appearance off the coast of California. The unusual appearance and why experts think such a large group may be traveling together.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Finally tonight, a spectacular rare sight off the coast of California.
Thousands of dolphins clustered together, forming a superpod. There are more than 2,000 of them, nearly 18 kilometers from the shore. Experts say the dolphins could have gathered together to fend off predators or feed on the same food source or to just socialize. The group included light gray baby calves, several hundred Pacific white-sided dolphins, and the more elusive northern right whale dolphin. This superpod occurred last Friday off the coast of Monterey Bay. Pretty cool.
Nature spectacular. Now, we certainly don't have California weather, but pretty good weather today for this side of the planet.
Yeah, we have had good weather, I think we should say, because things are changing as we make our way into the night tonight. One more look at the satellite and radar imagery. A little bit of mixed precipitation happening there in pink, just along the Erie shoreline, inching closer toward the city of London. For us, waking up tomorrow morning, we are likely going to be dealing with some wet snow here in the GTA. Be mindful of this when it comes to your morning commute or for getting the kids onto the school bus. Weekend ahead, Saturday is the first day of March. Dare I say it's coming in like a bit of a lion. We've got more snow in store for Friday night, and the weekend is going to be quite cold. Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Lindsay. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.